Bodega Trece, which is 13. I might have pronounced that wrong.
I'm comfy.
Let me come with yous, pleaded Rab. Nope, said Bodega, checking his holster and his belt and adjusting his hat. He was moseying towards the cargo bay of the Disco Volante, Rab scurrying after him. Oh, come on, I've not been off Tartania for years, said the big man, clasping his hands together. I gotta do this one alone, pard. Fella I'm looking for, don't like strangers, said Bodega, turning and standing on his tiptoes to slap a hand on Rab's shoulder. But if the flarv hits the turbine, I'll be needing you, so stay in close orbit. And with one last look and hint of a smile, Bodega stepped through the airlock into the Gretham insertion shuttle, and he was gone. Spiraling down through the dense bluish clouds of Skarpon II, Bodega cloaked the Gretham and brought it down on silent running on an outcropping of rock. He sidled down the ramp. To anyone watching, it was as if he'd just appeared in thin air, tapping the control panel at the foot of the ramp and sealing the shuttle. Only he could access it now. Skarpon II, a planet with an environment so rich and lush, its flora and fauna had more variety than a Spurlupian cabaret. Biologists who spent their entire lives studying every facet of this world and its habitat still barely scratched the surface. It was 80% land, and all of that land was habitable, covered in dense foliage and towering jungle-covered mountains, vast lakes and rivers, all of it infested with every kind of life imaginable. And then some rich bastard bought it and sealed it off from the universe. Nobody got in or out unless Skarpon Incorporated said so. Luckily, Bodega had access to the best hacker around, so they've been able to forge a visitation pass. Of course, those sons of glubs at Skarpon Inc. would soon find out, so Bodega had to act quickly. Somewhere in this heady miasma of life was a man, a rich brat named Reed Chorley III. He was the sole heir to the Chorley soft drinks empire, which he'd inherited 5 years ago. He had so much moolah, his net worth was just recorded as God++. 5 years ago was the last time Bodega had ever seen Reed, and the last time anyone had really heard from him. But a little online digging by Nebbish had turned up Skarpon II as his most likely hiding place. Bodega shouldered his survival pack and rested a hand on his lasgun. Trouble with a world teeming with life is, most of it ain't gonna be friendly. It was quite literally a jungle out there. Millions of square miles of hot, hostile, deadly terrain. Bodega smiled. Sounds like fun, he thought. In his earpiece, the voice of the soft-spoken Nebbish. There are so many life forms, there's no way we can locate Chorley with any certainty. But what we do have is that reading on a fire about 2 k's from your position. Signature says fossil fuel. That's likely not a Morkbeast cooking dinner, he said. Gotcha, said Bodega, making his way downhill. Every step he took caused dozens of tiny insects and rodents and birds to scatter and reconceal themselves. Eerie cries and sharp calls filled the air of the jungle below. The bag-like bodies of huge, long-legged creatures grazing the upper canopy were visible from time to time, as were the many species of primate leaping between the passive behemoths. From up here, Bodega could see tens of thousands of birds flocking and fighting, wheeling and diving, as well as huge swarms of strange insects devouring a tree before moving on to the next. This reverie was shattered by the scrotum-tightening bellow of a Morkbeast, a creature so terrifying and savage only a handful of people have survived meeting one, and none existed in captivity. Somewhere down there was the most dangerous animal on Skarpon II, maybe the galaxy. Well, now he's got company, said Bodega, setting his lasgun to maximum and gritting his teeth. After silently approaching the location of the campfire, Bodega sat a while in the bough of a swiffy tree a few hundred meters away. His camo cloak and scent-masking field should render him pretty well concealed. Ogling the sight through his trinoculars, he could make out 4 figures through a break in the jungle. Humanoids, naked, armed with some pretty nifty-looking bows and spears, as well as some pretty evil-looking long knives. Their skin was midnight blue, save for a yellow stripe that crossed their eyes. A tribe on Skarpon? Bodega was pretty sure there were no indigenous intelligent life forms on this world, so who the flav were these fellers? Survivors of a crash landing? Maybe they knew where Chorley was at. He watched them for another hour, but they seemed to be meditating. Bodega fidgeted. He sighed. No use. He was going to have to take a good old tug on his mega vape, or his nerves would set to jangling. Maybe they won't notice, he thought hopefully. He was very, very wrong. No sooner had that delicious, relaxing, and harmless water vapor left his mouth than they were upon him. Flav, these fellers were fast. They poked up at him with their spears and cackled insanely, baring their teeth. Now, there ain't no need for spear poking, said Bodega, deactivating the camo cloak and jumping down to meet them. They spread out, grinning and pointing at their stomachs. Okay, then I got a question for you fellers, said Bodega, drawing his lasgun. The 4 humanoids looked horrified. Come on now, old chap, that's hardly sporting, is it? Said one of them. Bodega's eyes widened. Who in the name of holy space Christ are you boys? He blurted. We might ask you the same thing, said one of them. All four stood up straight, and all four looked extremely disappointed. I'm here looking for an old friend of mine, said Bodega. Bodega? Said one of the men. I'm guessing that's you, Reed, said Bodega, touching the brim of his hat. Well, for goodness sake, what, why, and how, man? Explain yourself, said Reed, looking as angry and dignified as a rich boy playing tribesman can look. Wait a minute. Is this what you meant when you said you had to discover yourself? You bought Skarpon II and decided to live here with your boyfriends? They're not my boyfriends, they're my tribesmen, said Reed, pouting. Sell it to me, said Bodega. Back at the campfire, Reed explained it all to Bodega. He'd grown weary of the life of an immortal with more money than God. There was no challenge, no danger in anything he did. His life was so perfect that it lost all meaning. But here on Skarpon, every day is a blessing. If we survive the squeege bugs, if we can best the gloms and the whittle creatures, if we slaughter a chuff ball, we dine for weeks. And if we fail, we die, he said, strutting around the campfire and preaching to his adoring converts and to Bodega. If you boys die, you'll just activate some clone somewheres and you'll be back in time for lunch, said Bodega, grinning. Not here. We're cut off. Too far from our clone relays. If we die here, we stay dead. That's what makes it so invigorating, said Reed. Uh-huh, said Bodega, drawing his lasgun and blasting Chorley and his friends in one sweeping motion. Back on the Disco Volante, Reed Chorley looked confused, sipping hot scoffy while wrapped in a blanket. Your holding company wouldn't let you risk your life, Reed. Nobody will. You're too darn important and too darn rich. We stole one of your clones from the relay, the one in orbit around Skarpon II. Guess you didn't know about it. Sorry for breaking it to you kind of harshly, said Bodega, sitting down. It was all a lie. Maybe I wanted to believe it. All I really want, Bodega, my man, is the chance to die properly, to take actual risks, gosh flav it, said Reed. Language, Reed. And don't worry, if it's risks you want, you're in good company. Reed smiled. Could you shoot me again? I rather enjoyed it. Maybe later, said Bodega. The end.
Oh, man.
Oh,
That's good.
There was the smoking gun of the Morkbeast, but it never turned
I just wanted
up.
it there as a...
Never turned up.
We're not ready for the Morkbeast just yet.
We've heard about the Morkbeast
yeah.
before.
It's just, at the moment, it's just, it's a,
Man, that was a good one. I like that.